Hey everyone, in this video we're going to go over my Golden Demon entries for USA 2022. So it's been a few weeks now since the actual event, and maybe that means I can talk about it less emotionally and more rationally. Anyway, I thought it'd be nice to make a video actually talking through my entries, because previous Golden Demon, which was 3 years ago now in 2019, I just post a picture on Instagram and that was cool, but I have this YouTube channel now, which is brilliant. So it's much better media, I think, to show things in video and just have a proper chat about them instead of just, a little square on Instagram. So hopefully you enjoy it. A few people asked how I got my entries there when they saw them, and it was in this fantastic table wall case. So all of my entries were difficult to transport this time. The trees you can see just fit in there. I actually had to trim them down to make it work, but it worked out absolutely perfectly in this case. So here you can see my 5 entries for the competition. The big diorama with the vampire hunters. Got a Farseer Sepsimus from the Underworld's Warband. I've got this jewel from the Looncurse artwork, and I've got my Saint Celestine trio here in the squad category. So I think I'll just go over each entry, talk about them a little bit, show some photos and also a little bit of candid video so you can really see what's going on. I guess my main entry that I had all my hopes and dreams on was this vampire diorama, and this is what I spent the longest on, the most effort, and it was the one I did right up against the deadline. Now, I will say that the whole Golden Demon event was organised amazingly well, and the photography was brilliant on the whole, but I do kind of wish they'd chosen a front-on shot, because that's how I designed this diorama to look. You can look at it from different angles, and I did make sure it looked cool from different angles, but really it's this front-on design so you can see the archway of the trees and everything in it. So, but anyway, it's quite a hard thing to photograph, so you can't blame them. But if I could have chosen, it would have been this front shot here. My main kind of criteria for this was I wanted to start doing more storytelling in my pieces. And it's really cool when you get a single miniature painted perfectly on a base, but with my personal hobby, I want to start exploring being a bit more creative and telling stories and things like that. And the diorama and jewel category is just something I'm really passionate about, and I think it's where I can progress my hobby and get more enjoyment out of it. And that, of course, is what it's all about. I definitely need to improve my single figure painting, and that's something we'll talk about later when we look at my single figures. But this was something myself and Henry chatted about a lot, actually. We often think dioramas are the coolest thing in Golden Demon, yet I don't really do them. So this piece was quite important to me in the start to do these more elaborate things for Golden Demon, and hopefully I'll just continue to do cooler scenes and I'll improve a bunch along the way. The project really started with the witch hunters, or as I'm calling them, vampire hunters, and I just thought these two are really cool miniatures and they would be easy to create a narrative around, or not easy, but just you could do a very cool narrative with them. With all the vampires that came out for Curse City, I thought there's got to be something in there. And originally I was trying to do it with a kind of a city scene, but it wasn't working. And then I started to work on this forest scene. I documented everything in detail on the Patreon, so every little step of this is on the Patreon right now if you do want to watch that. So this is going to be kind of a brief view of the process I went through. I had a fairly strong idea of what I wanted to do based on some artwork, and I knew I wanted a straight river with the figures in there and snow either side on the banks, and I wanted this vampire raised in the centre with this sacrifice. And that was the basic idea that I stuck to, but things changed organically along the way. So originally it was a different vampire. I tried using a different dead body, but this one worked out so perfectly in the end. So it's funny how things can develop, and stuff like that I was really happy with. When this project was in development, I was really happy at every stage of the painting. So the first thing I did was the vampire, and in my view, it's one of the best miniatures I've painted as a single figure. I was really happy with the look of the skin and how clean it was for me, and the non-metallic metal silver, which is something I struggle with. So I was really happy when I'd done that first vampire, and all the miniatures went really well. I was super happy with that element. When it came to the base, I was really happy with the composition. When I built that archway and got it to work, I was really excited. Everything was looking good, and in my basing video on Patreon, I really explain in detail what went wrong with the snow and why. But essentially, in a nutshell, something went wrong with the snow despite me doing it loads of times before. I tested it just before doing it, and it turned out perfectly on the test. But basically, it didn't quite work. I was very unlucky when it came to doing the real thing, and I'm not exaggerating. When this went wrong, I nearly cancelled my flight and I just didn't want to go. I was so unhappy. I'd spent months on the miniatures, 4 months on the miniatures, and at the last minute, doing something I was very comfortable with, it just went super wrong. So I was feeling really, really low at this point. Probably one of the worst I felt doing miniatures. So it's not all plain sailing, and sometimes it doesn't feel worth it. But obviously I entered, I pushed through, but I did have to chisel all the snow off. And when I did the second round of snow, it didn't look how I wanted. And so, to be honest, I got a lot of critique from various people on how the snow looked. And this, I must admit, was kind of hard to handle because I really hated it as well. I was feeling a little bit low about the overall look because I felt like I ruined the piece, and it was totally avoidable. I just was unlucky and didn't get it right. So yeah, that was tough to take because I fully agree with what people were saying, that the snow was a little heavy, but it was a miracle I entered the piece at all. So yeah, I was happy with that. And I think that's why it's important to do this video a few weeks later, because in retrospect, I do like the piece. I am happy with how it looks overall. And I was nearly there. Like, my idea, I think, was cooler and better than I've done before. And I did a lot of hard stuff. You know, the river turned out really well and all those effects. So I think in my head, the one thing I'm not happy with is the snow. And that's really unfortunate. But it's still a piece that I'm happy with. And of course, I can't complain because I did get the Gold Award in Golden Demon, which I'm obviously really, really happy with. But I think sometimes the accolades aren't as important as how you feel about the piece. And I am really proud of it because I pushed myself, and unfortunately it didn't quite go my way. I think one thing I am happy with is what went wrong was an effect. So I didn't quite get a product applied how I wanted. It still looks good, but it didn't look exactly how I wanted. I wanted it a little lighter, and for you to see the different steps that I very carefully created, I had to go heavy with the snow to basically cover up the previous mistakes, and that's just how it went. But it's a really important part of my journey to learn these things, and I do like the scene, I like the story, and I really like how I painted all the figures. So all the elements that I was fully in control of, the painting, I am happy with this project. But that small side of it, yeah, it's not quite there. So anyway, a really important piece in my sort of Golden Demon journey as I've pushed myself, and I'll continue to try to do even better dioramas, and I won't make these mistakes. My second most important entry was this Saint Celestine and the Gemini squad, and this was actually painted in 2019, and I was very disciplined not to put it on social media. I just put it in a box so it didn't get dusty, and I left it. And this was for Adepticon 2020. That was the purpose of this piece. So I'm glad I held it back and I put it in the show that I wanted it to be in, basically. And this I'm really happy with. Obviously, I haven't converted the models at all, but I think just on the cool floating base and creating that nice sort of triangle by having her a little higher is really cool. I'm really happy with that simple idea, but I think, just presenting the models that Games Workshop make for us is a really nice thing to do for Golden Demon. It's also cool for me because I wanted to try and do a very rich, very high contrast, just very basically full on gold, and that's probably something I wouldn't pursue now. I'm starting to try and do more subtle things and just paint a little less vibrantly than I did in the past. And so I think it's kind of cool that this represents what I was doing a couple years ago. And I'm still happy with how it looks. If I started it today, I don't think it would look like that. And I think that's kind of cool. I am very happy with the overall finish. And I think the red cloth on the back is probably the best red I've done. I've got to do some red in a piece coming up, so I'll try and better that. But I remember taking a lot of time with this red, and I was really happy with the look of it, especially as it's at the back and you can't really see it from the front. So it was something cool that when you turned it, it was interesting to look at, and I hoped that the judges would like how clean I'd painted this and how vibrant the piece looked. So overall, I love this one. It's something I'm proud of. I'm really glad I held it back. I worked really hard on it at the time. It's just kind of weird that we had this break from competitions and I had it sat there, but I was very happy again to receive the gold, the first place for this, as I really did try. Even though it was sat around, it was for that show, and it just felt absolutely great to get that win. My third entry is my jewel based on the Looncurse artwork, and to be honest, this is probably my favourite entry, and a few people told me they liked it a lot as well, which felt really good. I think the reason it's my favourite is because it's quite small and condensed, like the other entries are huge, and I just like this with the two figures. And the main idea for this was, in the artwork, he's obviously flying and they're dueling. And the challenge really was to try and make it floating or flying as best I could. And it was just really fun to have everything hinge on that mushroom. So there's a massive metal pin going through that, and then there's a metal pin on the spear for stability. But I was really happy how I managed to really heavily convert the Sylvaneth figure. Actually, the goblin isn't converted at all, but I had to heavily convert that. And I was really happy how I could suspend him. And it's a very two-dimensional piece. It's really designed to look front on, but I'm happy with how the rock kind of angles and frames everything. This piece was originally intended for the UK Golden Demon in 2020. So I was going to do Celestine for Adepticon and this jewel for the UK. I thought that'd be a nice pair of entries. And again, I had this hanging around for 2 years. And I really remember at the time, I just did the wings really quickly at the end. I'd had enough, and I just quickly painted the wings, and it really let the piece down. And so it was funny coming back to it, and I painted these new wings. And I think I'm going to do a separate video about basically resurrecting old pieces. But I'm really happy I redid the wings because it changed how it looked for me. This one got the Bronze Award, and I was so happy about that. I don't know why, it's just funny. This is maybe the smallest piece out of the three main entries I had, but kind of fills me with joy. And getting the bronze for this felt really, really good. That was a big surprise for me because Jewel was actually really hotly contested. Obviously, I was behind Ben Comets' amazing Sanguinius Jewel, and then Steve Garcia's Lehman Russ and the Lion Jewel. So 2 really heavy hitters there, and I just slot in with the only AOS winning jewel. Horus Heresy is obviously how to do it. I also entered my Farseer and Sepsimus, the Nurgle character, and what was really interesting for me was these weren't for Golden Demon. The other 3 were full intention, this is for Golden Demon. And these 2 pieces were just fun, and I did paint them, well. I didn't sort of skimp on stuff, but I didn't do everything as perfect as I should do for Golden Demon. I think you've really got to push yourself, especially for single figure. And these are the ones that didn't win anything, and I think that was right. Obviously, I just brought them because I thought they're quite cool miniatures and I'd really like them to be in the cabinet, and people mentioned them, so it was worth it. People said they liked my Farseer, and that's the reason to enter, I think. And so it didn't matter to me they didn't win anything, but it was nice that I got to show them in the cabinet. Actually, the Farseer, I wish I did paint to a higher level, because I know it's simple, but just the head swap, the little cat, the little base, I was really happy with how it looked and the colour scheme. I just wish I'd paint it to a higher technical standard, and then maybe I would have had a shot, I guess. I think I did this piece in a few weeks and it needs a lot more. So yeah, single figure is a funny one for me. It's something that I need to be in the right headspace to do, because if you're entering single figure, you have to be even more meticulous than something else. Not that you can be lazy in something like squad, but yeah, you need to be absolutely perfect, I think, to win this category. And I definitely need to up my game if I'm going to have a shot at winning in single figure in the future. So I hope you enjoyed looking at all my entries. I had the best time at Golden Demon with my friends and seeing them win as well, but just spending time with people that are absolutely super enthusiastic like me about painting miniatures. And after a 3-year break, I was so happy to be back doing this. It's what I really, really love. I left the competition wondering what I should focus on, and what I learned was things that were technically well painted is what did well in this competition. Look at the skink that won the Slayer sword. None of my pieces were anywhere near this technical standard, and I did feel like, maybe I shouldn't have done a huge diorama. I should have just, painted one figure and tried to make every part perfect. But actually, after sitting and thinking for a while, I thought, no, that's bad. What I'm passionate about is starting to create some stories. I think that's cool. I've got a long way to go in terms of my technical painting, but at least I'm starting to be a bit more creative, which is something I really felt I lacked in previous years. So my main aim for this was be more creative, and I think I did that. I still need to do some scenes with better compositions, but my 3 main pieces, I think I did some cool ideas. So it's just time to keep learning, keep pushing myself, and just, always improving and enjoying it along the way. So I'm really buzzing for it now, and I've decided what 2 of my entries are going to be for the next Golden Demon. So let's get on with it. And of course, all of these things, apart from Celestine, are actually on the Patreon. So if you want to see tutorials on how I painted all of these figures, then sign up and have a look at the Patreon. I think what's crazy is, Celestine I painted before I started that, so that's the only reason she's not there. But I look forward to your comments. I tried to be honest about how I felt about this stuff, but I hope you enjoyed my ramblings, and if you did enjoy this video, then I could continue to just kind of talk about my pieces in the future. Anyway, have fun painting, and hopefully I'll see you all at the next Golden Demon.